Hi everyone, it's Jerry. Let's have a look at a game that was played at the 1958 Interzonal on the white end Bobby Fischer, and he's paired against Bent Larsen. Opening wise, it's in open Sicilian. We have the dragon variation, and I believe the main issue with Larsen's play is that he underestimated the value of Fischer's king bishop. On this move 9, it's deployed to c4. It functions very well on this diagonal opposite the king. The pawn is pinned. It's this bishop that's the star piece in the game. It's a both sides of the ball piece, plays an offensive role, defensive role, and as we will soon see, acts as a great catalyst for an attack against the black kingside. Play follows with knight takes knight, bishop takes knight, bishop e6, bishop b3. White's prepared to follow the general rule in this case, taking towards the center on b3 if black captures there. However, that mentality changes in a couple moves. Queen a5, queenside castles. So now, white would not be taking with the a-pawn, because white would be moving in the wrong direction, backwards. Instead, if bishop takes b3, be taking with the c-pawn, throwing the king on the b-file, and probably fighting along the newly opened c-file shortly thereafter. Okay, there is no bishop takes b3 in this game. Instead, b5. Standard move now, after queenside castles. King b1. Once more, after bishop takes b3, even though there would be no queen a1 if white's taking towards the center, best is to capture with the c-pawn and again, prepare to fight along the c-file. In the game, it's b4. Knight's given a kick to the center. Bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, and we reach a very important moment in the game. The rook is hit. How to react exactly. This next move is considered an inaccuracy in the computer's eyes. It's really the main issue, let's say, in the game. When I share the tail of the tape, inaccuracies, mistakes, blunders, again, it registers as an inaccuracy. This is really the big problem in the game. This guy now lives, gets to go back to b3, and from there it's an amazing piece. Now, what maybe kept Larsen from capturing the bishop, I'm not sure exactly. It could be that this is kind of tough to say, but he may have overestimated his own king bishop. I'm saying it's tough to say that because this is, in its own right, a super important piece, an important defender for your own king side. But there is a good continuation after knight takes bishop. If white is knocking out the bishop like this, black can follow with knight to c3. And we basically get into a rook-specific ending where white is up a pawn, but it cannot be seen as a full pawn. And there's really no hope to play for a win. So let me share this variation with you. This position right here, white is in fact up a pawn, but it's a half-dead pawn. A lot of weaknesses here. How do you even defend? This wouldn't be a fun way to try and babysit the pawns if you're trying to defend with the king. Well, first of all, you could be given a kick. You could try to defend like this, but then black could remind you that you have another weak pawn. There's really no hope to press for a win here as white. So this would have been the best try for black now to go straight into that rook-specific ending, but instead, rook a to c8, the light square bishop lives. From here, rook c7. The next move by black is queen to b5, looking to next, free the pawn to bother the bishop. This is a time-sensitive position. We have, this is the case because the kings are on opposite sides of the board. I think also what factors in is the fact that the queens are still present and there's still some aggressive intentions by both sides. It's a race position, so one slip and, it could be over for you. Rook c7. An important move to first defend the pawn. If you're trying to quickly go in for queen b5 with the idea to run the a-pawn down, white would be able to knock out the a-pawn. Now, at first glance, some may say, that's crazy. You've just opened up a new file and there might be something happening here, but hang on, that most valuable piece is around to defend a2 if that happens. So it's not just here defending c2, but also a2. Great piece. Rook c7. Babysit the a-pawn first. White carries on with h4. Fischer, one of his quotes being, his blueprint for dismantling the Sicilian dragon. It's quoted as saying, pry open the h-file, sack, and mate. We do get to see a sacrifice in this game. Okay, from here it's queen b5, h5, black ignores it, carries on with forming a battery on the c-file. Let me highlight a variation to demonstrate just how powerful this guy is. This is one of the many variations where this guy shines. If knight takes h5, there would be bishop takes bishop. If knight takes bishop, the queen sneaks in here. How do you stop the threat there? You have to play knight h5, and then you're scared away with g4. Some other try, king takes bishop. Well, g4 still. Queen slips in. g5 hits. Chop on h5. g6. The pawn is pinned. Pawn takes, and here's one cool way this game could go straight to check and mate. Okay. One other line, pretty crazy if you're taking like this. There'd be g4 takes, and quick pop quiz, which one of white's pieces is not attacking the black king? Okay. Don't think too hard. All of them are attacking. None of the above. We could have some fun here drawing lines. This is not survivable. Okay. From here, battery is formed. H-file is pried open. G-pawn ready to scare the knight. It's a race. G4, A5, G5, white's hitting first. There is still hope for black to survive this, but you have to be super precise. And that precision is not found. After rook takes knight, black recaptures, and it's winning from this point on for white. There is one way to save it, and that is to initiate this exchange on d4, which at first glance seems very counterintuitive. Why are we doing this? Isn't white able to recapture and improve the queen? Isn't she better placed on d4 rather than d2, cutting right into the dark squares on the king side? Let's have a look at this variation. What is the idea exactly? Well, after queen takes bishop, pawn takes, and g6, black can play this move rook to c4. And after pawn takes, you'll notice the g file is now opened. The king gets to recapture and stay off of the g file now. The king will not be forced onto the g file. What am I talking about exactly? Well, if there was still tension between the bishops, white would be able to follow up with, after g takes f7, there could be bishop takes bishop, and then the king would be pulled to the g file, which is paving the way for white to insert a very useful rook reposition, getting to the g file with check. What am I talking about exactly? Well, let me compare this. Let's say we go with the move played in the game, and then after this move, only now, let's say, we have the move rook to g4, or excuse me, rook to c4. Now we could take. After king takes, you'll notice white gets to initiate the exchange, and pull the king to a much more vulnerable square. Follow up with rook g1, etc. Queen h6, maybe queen to g2. This is completely winning for Team White. It's already reading a mate. Okay, so this was the only way for Black to survive, to flick in this capture first, but doesn't find it. Instead, the more human move to immediately recapture on h5. Now comes g6. White is there first. That pawn is pinned. Black tries to shut things down some with e5. Pawn takes with check. King f8. Bishop e3. And now this is a cool try by Larsen with d5. Trying to interfere with the bishop and the major pieces. There are a couple ways to go wrong as White. And taking with the bishop and queen are both wrong ways. Taking with the queen, Black is happy that the queens are going to be off, and you could maybe hope to still survive this. If you're taking with the bishop, there's rook takes c2. Okay, Fischer follows with the winning way, let's say. Takes with the pawn. At the moment, this guy is masked, but that is short-lived. Play follows with rook takes f7, and the bishop's eyes are opened back up. Now, if some other move is tried in this position, let's say with a4, White would be able to play d6, and the bishop, if the bishop's captured, the rook is captured, and nothing exciting is happening on a2 or c2. The timing is just not right for Black. So what is tried is rook takes f7, d6, rook is hit, goes to f6, keeping an eye on the d6 square. If you're taking the pawn, there's d7. How do you stop promotion? Rook d8? Well, there's queen d6, and that's mate. Okay, so the try here is rook f6, watching over d6, bishop g5, queen b7, and what else to try? Oh, there's one other variation I want to highlight here. This is a cool one. In this position here, instead of rook takes pawn, after a4 and d6, I tested out this one. I thought to myself, what are we doing exactly if the rook goes to c6? There would be bishop to e6 in this position. This is really neat. Bishop e6. In this case, Black can allow the c2 pawn to be captured. After rook takes c2, there would be bishop to g5, and that is very pretty. You could allow the queen to be captured because the bishops are enough, along with the pawns, to deliver mate. It's a pretty variation. Okay, in the game it is rook takes pawn, d6, rook f6, bishop g5, queen b7. White grabs the rook, and now with d7 cuts the queen off from defending any of the kingside squares, any of Black's kingside squares. After rook to d8, one final move, queen d6, and Black resigns. What do you do here? If you play king to g7, rook g1, etc. I'm going to be taking the bishop next. And let's say if bishop to e7, that's a quick mate. The pieces crisscrossing there along the diagonal. And one fun note, this is actually not that's not actually the fastest way to mate. This is considered even better. Queen to h6. And if you block with the bishop, we have mate in this way. Adjacent diagonals for mate. And if you move the king to e7, it's check and checkmate. Once again, highlighting the strength of this light square bishop knifing in towards the king. Okay, however you slice it, queen d6, queen h6, all roads are leading to checkmate eventually. Okay, anyhow, let's have a look at the tail of the tape on this one. We could see the inaccuracies, mistakes, and blunders for each side. The accuracy for Fischer, 95, 87 for Larsen, and just highlighting the inaccuracies, mistakes for Larsen. It's really the inaccuracies. What's considered inaccuracy? G6. Okay, we could hardly consider G6 an inaccuracy. It's really this decision right here. Rook A to C8, allowing that star piece in the game, Fischer's king bishop, to remain on board. Great offensive, defensive piece. Great catalyst for an attack in this particular game. Anyhow, as usual, feel free to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed it, and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.